Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along Monday night, 8 p.m, which means only one thing. It is the Online Darts Live Lounge with me, Phill Bars. Lee Boyce is here today, but Jack Garwood is off gallivanting at the races and has binned us off for the night, Boycey.
Just had a freebie and he ran with it, didn't he? Or he didn't want to speak to me after last Monday. It's one of those, but...
Is it a sports show tonight? Is it a sports show tonight by any chance?
No, of course it's a dark show. But
to be fair, though, you are in a much happier mood this week than you were 2 weeks ago. Let's be fair.
Slightly. You was with me on Saturday. You saw the delight of being able to follow it up. So it doesn't happen very often. So I'm holding on to this mood until a few days away.
Results have gone all right. But let's be fair, Ajax have had your pants down massively today.
This is a dart show, Philip. This is a dart show. We're not talking about that bit. We leave that bit out.
100 million euros. Wow. Welcome along. Chat room, nice and busy as always. Tommy, Daniel, how are we doing? Bob, Adrian, Owen, G Adventures. Nicholas is in. Craig, how are we doing? Alex, James, Craig, as always, Bill, Tommy, Simon, Matthew, Kieran. Good to have everyone involved. We've just shared some links on social media. So if you see them, make sure that you give them a share and a retweet. And make sure you give us a like as well as we get this going. Look, it's been another busy weekend. Boys, we've had World Series coming to its climax. We've had Women's Series. We've had the Red Dragon Championship Champions. We return to some ranking action, as Gezi would say. This coming week is never a dull moment.
Yeah, very, very busy week. This week we've obviously the Women's Series, and as much as I've just had a little dig in with him, Dob doing a great job on the Women's Series. I was able to catch quite a bit of that in Cardiff and travelling back from there on Sunday. So we've had Women's Series. Obviously, you've mentioned the last of our trips around the world, in what we saw some action, and then. I mean, you had the joys of being in Cardiff in what has to be the most brutal tournament I think I've ever seen. So it was just fantastic from start to finish with that much action.
Brutal but brilliant.
Yeah. Without doubt.
Which we'll come on to that more in a minute. But chat room, hope you had a great bank holiday weekend as the nights are drawing in. Summer is coming to an end. So strap yourselves in. You know when this happens, Boise, one thing is on the horizon. There is a shiny palace drawing nearer as the summer disappears. We can say that tonight because Gob's not here.
If we're going to start saying that to Dob, ain't he? We can start giving our Premier League pits, don't we? Because he'll always know that that's too early. But...
to be fair, we went early last year, so you never know. We'll fit it in at some point. It's going to be carnage. We all know this. Chat room, remember, get involved throughout the evening as well. I worked the back. Yeah, so did I, James. I was up at 6 this morning, out the door for 6:30. I was on live league duty. Oh, by the way, what a group that was today on the live league. Standard was unreal.
Ridiculous.
Competitive throughout. Yeah, it's the 66-year-old that's still battering in 99 averages that tops the group.
Does that surprise you? I know we'll touch upon it in more detail as we'll review last week as well, but
not
does
at
that
all.
surprise you one little bit?
It's just what Martin Adams does, isn't it? But again, we'll touch on that as it comes. Yeah, Bob, look, we both had a really, really good time in Cardiff. It was really, really good, but we'll come on to that shortly. But I suppose we'll start down under, Gob. The World Series, Boise. The World Series has come to an end in terms of the travelling events. We still have the finals to go. And spoiler alert, it was a very Welsh-dominated event this time around.
Yeah, it was. And like says, we was there. We was in Wales at the time of that happening. Unfortunately, there wasn't the fans in to watch it with us. We was able to see it on the big screen. But it was very Welsh dominated, and so it was into one aspect quite a surprise, because more probably on the Johnny sense than the Derwin. Derwin's been getting there, and we've seen the levels of that. But we spoke previously about the dip of Johnny since the Premier League. So to see him get into that final, and I guess not seeing Michael van Derwin's name in and around that final is always surprising at the moment, as very well he's playing. So, but generally a very, very good tournament. That I was impressed with Friday's action. I thought it was a good session to end the last of our World Series events before the final.
Yeah. Well, we've got some time tonight, so we can kind of go through the games. First up, look, Johnny Clayton was in no danger in this opening round. Tyler, he's only averaged 88 and he still won 4-1. I say only 88 as if that's shite, but it's obviously still a very, very good standard. But we all know he's capable of the 105s, 106s, and beyond that. There was never in any danger.
Yeah, spot on. And I think it was one of those where it's just doing enough. It could have done on an average 100, 102 sort of measurements that we've seen before from someone like Johnny, but he didn't have to do that. He'd done enough. He was always in control of this game. There was never any real question marks about that performance, and it was a convincing win from the Ferret.
Yeah. Look, Joe Cullen, 6-2 winner over Damon Heta. And Damon Heta, will he sign off from a World Series that I know he was so excited about going home and everything like that, but will there be an element of disappointment? 3 first-round exits. Granted, 2 of them were in last leg deciders, and they both were ridiculous last legs. But this one, he was kind of disappointing. 91, 90. That's not the Heta that we've seen. Joe Cullen only 92 as well. So it's not as if the rock star has played amazingly to beat him 6-2 either.
He will be disappointed. Performance-wise, it was very good. I wouldn't say very good. I'd probably say good across the 3 events. But like you said, he lost 2 last leg deciders and then just wasn't at the level against Joe. However, if Damon Heta was told at the start of August that you're going to play in the 3 events, you're not going to win a game, I don't think any of us would have believed that with the form he's carried over the past probably 12 months, and the highlight of being the World Cup champion. So I think overall it is a disappointing campaign from Damon Heta. But moving forward, performance-wise, other than this one against Joe, there's not real many question marks about where Heta's game is. And I've seen him do a Q&A on his social media today or yesterday, and where he was talking about his aim is to, drive towards the top 10 in the next 12 months. And if he can get back to the performances we've seen when he picked up the Pro Tour and glimpses we saw when he picked up the World Cup, it's definitely achievable. But we need to see the results, not just a dud performance up until the end. But It was difficult on Friday because Joe played okay.
fully agree. Then James Wade, he needed a last leg decider against Gordon Mathers, but the plus points for Wade here, he's averaged over 96. There was a stunning 145 in there, which turned the game in his favour. But this was more like the James Wade that we saw pre him going to hospital when he was taken ill in Germany. This was more of that Wade that we haven't seen since before he was ill.
Yeah, well, it probably falls into the similar category as Clayton. I think the last time the three of us were on, we were debating Wade and Clayton around their performances. Clayton's since the Premier League's ended, and Wade since he had to have the op and he missed. I think it was week 10. But this was certainly more of James Wade. That 145, probably one of the best checkouts of the weekend. It was just sensational, and it wasn't the fact that it was just a 145. It was the timing of it that made it that bit more important and just gave him that momentum switch. But it was a very, very good performance, and to see him average, Gordon Mathers played well, and 6-5. It's not a standard 6-5 of Wade nicking it. It was a 6-5 and a very good performance, which had to be for him to win the game. It was a different sort of wading that we saw in this one.
Yeah, and then the last, the shock of the round, and people get the hump when it was called that. But Fallon Sherrock losing out to Caden Mile. First of all, very impressed with the young man. I thought there was something about him. He had a little bit of presence on stage, and he wasn't shy. Fallon had opportunity. She mismatched darts. 5-3 up. Caden won the last 3 legs. So, two sides to the coin. One, obviously, Caden's won it, but Fallon can only blame herself because she had opportunities to put the game to bed.
Yeah, starting with Caden, I think we were speaking and Dob in the early stage of this game, and to say even after a few legs, we was getting impressed with Caden and his action, how his presence was on stage. He didn't seem to be massively nervous. He seemed to be going up and enjoying the fact he was playing. Fallon, yes, it was a bit of a slow start and he picked up as the day went on, but it looked comfortable up there. And even when Fallon got in front, he was playing some good stuff. Averages don't always show that, but I think sometimes we got to think that these ain't players who play on the Pro Tour week in, week out. This is his one opportunity of the 12 months to go on stage in a big audience and they'll perform something. And he took the opportunities that were gave to him. To the second point of that on Fallon, it's disappointing that she wasn't able to get over the line. Like you said, she had opportunities to do so, 5-3 in front, and should have won the game. The bigger question marks, which I'm sure we'll allude to later on, will be around the women's series and qualification for the other event, for the big events at the back end of the year. But generally, from a World Series campaigner, I think she'd have hoped to do better than what she has done on the stage. But as a whole, Fallon Sherrock being on the World Series and covering every event, I'm sure the PDC will see it as a positive because of the coverage. More than anything, you know better than me because you was there, but in America, the highlight and that around her will make sure for me that Fallon's better than next year, at least doing that one. But performance-wise, I think she'll feel that she should have done a little bit better.
Yeah, completely. Look, in my opinion, she's not match fit, match sharp. She needs to go and play more. Back end of last year when she was playing well at the Grand Slam, she was playing competitively a lot, and I don't think she is right now. So that's something that I think she needs to put right.
Yeah, I'm not in any disagreement really on that. If you think of before the World Series events, the tournaments that she was playing in, whether it be PDC or any other organisation, she's playing a lot of games in those days. Because of the tournament and a women's series, you can be playing, 20 games across the weekend. Where at the moment, it's only that 1 or 2 games that she's had, and an awful lot of work that hasn't been on the dartboard, which has probably just been different and I wouldn't say a new experience, because if anyone's doing more media work than anyone else, it is probably Fallon because of what she's done. However, the amount over the past 3 or 4 weeks may have had an impact.
Yeah, we'll come on to more of that later on then. Michael Smith, beating Warren Parry. Again, this wasn't a particularly good game, if I'm being honest. Michael Smith missed an absolute truckload of doubles, and this could have been 6-0, 6-1 if he'd have hit him. Warren Parry not really in the game. The 3 legs he won were mainly due to Michael Smith's missing.
Yeah, spot on. To miss 21 darts in a first to 6 and still win 6-3 tells the story that if that is probably half those misses, he probably does and wins to 0 or 1. It was just a bad day at the office for Michael Smith on his doubles. That I know in Tom's, Rod mentioned that we see this quite a bit from Michael Smith. I would say previously we did, in regards to we can have these stints of missing loads of doubles. I think these are few and far between now. I think that was a bit harsh on Bully Boy that we used to have them, especially at the start of London formatted games. But at the moment, I don't think they are as frequent, and his doubling has got better, especially better than 22%.
But in the greatest respect to Rod, is that because he doesn't really follow the tour anymore? This was his swan song, which we'll cover at the end. This was his, obviously, retirement gig, and he's going off past memories and maybe not watched as much recently as he once did.
Yeah, that may be the case. I just thought, at the time of listening to it, I just thought it was a tad harsh on Michael, that his game has improved significantly over the years. And yes, the wheat part of his game, or the one element of improvement, I don't want to say it's wheat, because sometimes his doublings can be outrageous when it's on, but the part of his game that would need a little bit improvement more than the others would be his doubling, but not to the level I thought that was mentioned by, I think it was Rod on Tom's for this day.
Probably. MVG then beat Bernie Smith, and when I look at the average, I was like, did he really average 99? Because I didn't think he played that well, Michael, to be fair. Was never in any danger, really, and it was almost one of those games where he was playing with his food, knew he wasn't going to lose, and when I saw the average, I was like, okay, didn't expect that, but he got the job done.
Yeah, credit to Bernie Smith really today in those 3 lads. But is there any other player in the world who can average, give or take, a few points here, 100 and look like he's not played that well? I don't think there is another player who does that. Does MVG can hit 100 quite frequently, and you think he hasn't played very well there, but he's got the number and he's got a convincing win.
Yeah, agreed. And then Gathering Price with the performance of the tournament. Forget the round, even though it was in the first one. It was the best performance that we saw, and probably the toughest game as well in relation to the Oceanic players. And I take Whitlock and Hetter out the equation because they're full-blown tour members. They don't can. And this was probably the toughest one out there. And Gezi was magnificent, but also Ben Robb showed he has got a great future in this game, and I'm excited and hope he comes over and gives Q-Score a bash and gives it a go, because there's a huge talent there. We saw it at the World Cup, and we saw it again here, that there's a real player there.
Oh yeah, without doubt. And yes, it was performance at the tournament, but you sort of felt that there was a potential for the upset before this game played, because we know what Ben Robb can do. But Price was outstanding. We'll talk about Price, I'm sure, more as we move on to Saturday's action. But in this one, he was just unbeatable, is probably the word to. Even if you'd have come up against any of the players on the left-hand side, you would have expected Price to get the victory. And it was just an all-round very good performance from the Welshman.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last game, it was Dimitri van den Berg against Simon Whitlock. And again, this was a tasty game. Dimitri's averaged a ton, Whitlock nearly 94. But Dimitri always seemed to have him at arm's length. That Whitlock was nipping around him, but Dimitri just fended him off all the time.
Yeah, Good performance then by Dimmy. But then I think Simon Whitlock would be quite disappointed with his last month of action. And this was an opportunity when you think of Dimmy's played well. However, if Whitlock can perform a bit better and the levels to really push on, this was an opportunity for Simon Whitlock, I think, when the draw was made. So he'll be disappointed that he didn't come through, but Dimitri got the job done and progressed through to Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. So, unfortunately, I think the PDC were a bit stretched this weekend. So we haven't got a graphic, so I had to screenshot the wiki page. So we'll go in draw bracket order. I'm still not quite sure this game, what I was watching. It was the weirdest game you've ever seen. Dimitri roared into a lead. Joe Cullen missed an absolute bucket load of doubles. Then all of a sudden, Dimitri started having nightmares from Copenhagen again, where he couldn't buy a double. I think he missed 9 match starts. Joe Cullen gets it back to 5-all. And then from nowhere, Dimitri pulls a bullseye finish to win it 6-5. It was the strangest game that gripped you. The standard wasn't great, but for drama, tension, it had you wanting more.
Yeah, the drama, tension, and the sort of the numbers is not what you'd associate with these two players. It just wasn't what you'd expect from Dimitri and Joe. If someone was to say the game would go 6-5, I don't think people would be surprised with the scoreline. But if people would say it was 6-5 and the way it went, then of course they wouldn't. Did anyone expect Dimitri with that bullseye? I certainly didn't after how he played during this game.
Not after
it
the
just
last
came
4
from
legs when he
nowhere.
was missing match starts galore. I was like, not a chance. And it was slap bang in the middle of the middle. But
Mr. Popular?
Is this one thing that may be a little bit worrying for Dimmy, that we're seeing these host of match starts missed more and more? When he's on, it's Rolls Royce and it's brilliant, like we saw in the match play. But we also are starting to see this where if it doesn't go early, if he misses 1 match start here and there, 3, 4, and 5 come along.
Yeah, it's quite, like I says, there was drama in there, and it was a game still enjoyable to watch, even though the numbers don't suggest so. But there is worrying signs there for Dimmy. Like I says, he got through on Friday, defeating Simon and playing well. But can you say a 1-2-3? 1-2-3, yeah, 1-2-3, 1-2-7. Sorry, is luck. But you feel like with this winning dart that it was. But there is question marks there, especially with a big 4 months coming up.
Yeah. Then Gavin Price gets revenge over James Wade. He was disappointed the way he lost to him last week. Put it right this week, and the averages were close, but the game wasn't particularly.
Yeah, it was pretty one-sided, wasn't it? It seemed like I said, Price was in control of it from the off. Got a few leads in front, and he just seemed comfortable. And that he didn't then need to move out of second and move into second or third gear. It was just a comfortable Price win. Completely different, really, when you look back to his performance on Friday against Ben Robb. But very, very convincing from the Iceman.
Yeah. And then this was, and again, another strange game. When you read the scoreline out, it says Johnny Clayton 6, Michael Van Gerwen 3. You look at the averages and you'd say it was fairly comfortable for Johnny. But those early stages, again, it's the trend of the tournament. Missed doubles from Michael Van Gerwen. He could have easily been in front and in cruise control. But like many others, missed a bucket load of doubles. The ferret finger point was back. Johnny Clayton looked to the camera and got the job done.
Yeah, but 3-0, 5-1, Johnny Clayton, but that scoreline could have potentially even been the other way around. early stages could have been the other way around.
Yeah.
And it's probably more of a surprise than anyone to see that from Michael, how well he's played over the past, going back to Premier League finals night, the past few months. Didn't really see this performance coming from him in regards to his doubling. His scoring was still very good, but his doubling was wide that average for Michael's only 92, and the scoreline could have been completely different. And two, what Derwin Price said about Johnny Clayton, I wouldn't describe him as being rubbish getting to the final. However, it wasn't great from Johnny.
Yeah, no, look, it is what it is. Look, Johnny will take it. He's averaged 98. Michael will be livid with himself because he actually scored really, really well. But again, as Bobby George once said, scores for show, doubles for dough. And that's exactly what it was. And then the last one, look, this was about as one-sided as we thought it was going to be. Michael Smith just did an absolute demolition job on the young man. Job done. That there's not much to talk about. That the chasm in the averages are all there to see, and it translates into the scoreline.
Yeah, it's quite a simple 6-0. You can see them sometimes where one's missed a few doubles and then they've got a couple of lead and sort of run away with it. But this wasn't the case. It was Michael Smith's scoring was just way too much for him. Still missed a handful of doubles here and there, but it was just in total control throughout the whole lead. Tayden only had one darter to double, which sort of shown that it was just Bully Boy was giving himself that many opportunities due to his power scoring. But generally, like I says about Tayden, Milne's first time I've seen him on the PDC World Series, and I was very impressed with him. Still a long way to go. Still a long way to go for him, but I was very impressed with him for a young man on that stage.
It's one of those ones where you potentially found a rough diamond that needs a lot of work and a lot of polishing, but it could develop into something very, very nice. Semi-finals. Again, chat room before we jump on. Good evening, Mark. How are we all doing? How are we doing, Kev? Remember, everyone, drop us a like. The support is massively appreciated. Semi-finals. This was a different Derwin Price. We'd seen the swashbuckling full flow Gezi, but this was a gritty performance, and this is what he's added to his game, where it wasn't going his way at times, but he found a couple of big finishes, and we had a couple of big roars, and he got the job done a gritty way.
Yeah, it was a gritty way, James Wade way, whichever way you want to sort of call it with Wadey. But then it's those question marks around Dimitri, because it's an opportunity for Dimitri to beat Desi, because Desi hasn't played to the standard that we saw in that first round. But he just found a way on those doubling. It only shows a 36% on his doubling. However, when he needed to hit it, and we hear a couple of players saying right shots at the right time, and Desi did that in this game, which why it looks a convincing win. But when you look at the stats, figures, and the game in general, there was opportunities there for Dimmy, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second semi-final, Johnny Clayton produced a James Wade performance, behind in the averages, but found a way just to fend off Michael Smith, and we saw what it meant to Johnny at the end. It was a nice little finish to stop us going to a deciding leg and set up the All-Welsh final.
Yeah, both semi-finalists who went on to win the game average less than their opponent. Johnny's was more clear than what Derwin's was in the previous one, but it was a very Wade-esque in the sense of his scoring wasn't great. However, his doubling was very, very good. From Johnny, a 14 dart lead, as you mentioned, to that one and win it. And the point reappeared once more in the semi-final as he did in the quarter-final, and here to stay for the rest of the year, I'm sure, Mr. Bars, because he always seems to know where that camera is.
Oh, it's here. point. He knows the drill. Spoiler alert. And I don't think many people would begrudge this man a trophy. I think he has been very, very consistent across the 3 events and getting his hands on a title. And I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. Gerwyn Price is very, very close to that 2020 form.
Yeah, there's still a little bit to go. I agree with you, he's not there yet. The rest of the field, the fact that Desi's done on and won this one, with what we've seen from Michael over the past 3 months, and with picking up so many titles, both of these meeting in the match play final. The rest of the field best be very, very worried, because with the Slam, the Grand Prix, Players Championships and World Championships, with those 4 big ones coming up, you can include World Series as well. Europeans as well, yeah, sorry. So yeah. if you put those 5 in, would you be surprised now if between the 2 of them they went and picked up 3 or 4 of those, with how well both of which are playing, just how well they're playing, is actually week on week, generally their performances are getting better, or if you looked at it as a collective over a month, the numbers are very, very impressive from the 2 of them, and they're going to be hard to stop. I know this is more about Desi than it is Michael, but we've seen Michael do it over the past 3 months. The fact that Derwin's now picked up a title, he's going to be a serious, serious contender over the next few months.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. We'll come touch more on the World Series in a minute, but we've got a clip from Gezi. The full interview is on our YouTube channel, so you can go and check that out afterwards. It's just a little clip, and there's some good banter in here. I like this between him and Johnny. They've got a good rapport.
And then I just knew Johnny in the final was going to find a bit better than he has all weekend, because he's been absolute rubbish. And then finds his A game against, well, not his A game, but a lot better against me. But yeah, I'm thankful that after the break, I came out firing, a bit better than I have all weekend.
I love the banter between them.
Yeah, we did. They push each other on. It seemed to be that, over the past 18 months, Price has pushed Clayton on to be what we've seen of Johnny Clayton. It seems to be a bit of the reverse role at the minute, and that little nudge is going towards Price, and it's shooting Price back up to be a huge contender for that title in January.
Yeah, looking at the World Series as a whole, how would you sum it up, the first one back since the pandemic?
On the board, very good.
Yeah.
There's obviously been games that haven't hit a standard that we sort of expect when we watch a PDC game, but that is always done to happen when you have qualifiers in who we don't see on regularly on a PDC stage, and travelling and media commitments and all that from the players at a time of the year when, let's say, it's a little bit more relaxed, because you've not got your ranking events, you've not got your Premier League, you've not got those sort of. So you are going to see a little drop, I always tend to think, in a World Series. When you look at it as a whole, yes, you can have outstanding games, which we've highlighted before of some that stand there. But generally, I've been impressed with the World Series. As I said, on the stage, the players have generally been good. I think there's 1 or 2 who will come away very disappointed and feel like they could have done a little bit better. And as I alluded to, someone like Fallon, Damon, Simon will probably all look at it, and there's probably a couple more in there who think I'd have wanted more from August.
Yeah, I look at it. I don't think there's a surprise that, for me, the Dutch one was the best event in terms of standard throughout, because you had all tour card holders there. There was no regional qualifiers or anything like that. So the Dutch event for me was the best in terms of standard. In terms of breakthrough that the World Series is about, without question, for me, the US Darts Masters, that ticked so many boxes of trying to just get a little toe and little foot into America. I thought that worked exceedingly well.
Yeah, I'm not in disagreement at all. When you think of it being the first one back, we've not had it for a few years, and we've had New York. Obviously, Hugh was there and experienced it, but from a viewer point of view, it was a great watch. To see Leonard Dates go on and pick up the American Championships and also proceed through to the quarters or semis. The Dutch one was just outstanding, as in quality wise, but that was always down to be. To see the MVG coming back, not be playing well. The array of Dutch talent is ridiculous. So to have one there, and the field is stupendous with how strong it is, and then to finish the back end with the Australian and New Zealand events. And there's always going to be that look when we're watching Australian and New Zealand events at the time of the year, because of what happened with Carl Anderson going on to win in New Zealand a few years back, and then his sad passing a year ago around this time. It's always going to be sort of emotional events, and I think we saw that in some of the performances. And it was good to see that we had a tribute award, which was handed out for the best competitor over these 3 events that Mathers was able to pick up.
Yeah, and look, we saw what it meant as well, that Gordon Mathers could barely get a word out. That it meant an awful lot to him. On the tribute award, I think it was a marvellous touch, but also I maybe would have liked to have seen the main tournament have some connection to Kyle as well. Yes, the award across the 3 was brilliant, but the fact Kyle won the New Zealand one, I maybe would have liked maybe the trophy named or just something, maybe just to cement his connection to that tournament as well.
Yeah, I like what they've done this year. I don't want to sort of... I see where you're coming from in regards to the New Zealand one, probably more than any of them, because of him going on to lift that a few years back. And that might be something down the line that it's named in his honour, next year or the year after. I guess it depends on where we go as a World Series. I'd be very surprised if they're not returning to New Zealand. So maybe that's something they'll look at in the future. But what they did this year was very good. And like I said, for Jordan to go on and win it, and it was very emotional. But I think that was going to be the case with whoever picked up that trophy. Whether you had a really close connection with Kyle, or you just knew him from the outset, or you'd seen him a few times, everything was said about Kyle was positive. And for people who have grown up with him like Damon and Jordan and played in many tournaments with it, there was always going to be that emotional connection to whoever went on and lifted that trophy.
Yeah, and Bob makes an interesting point here. He says, do you think the correct person won the Carl Anderson Memorial Award? I don't know what the actual criteria was, because if you're talking about the person that got the furthest or whatever, then Gigi got to a semi-final and played some okay stuff. I don't think he was brilliant, but did enough to win the games and get to that semi-final. But for his confidence and everything like that, absolutely outstanding. If it was for the Oceanic player that played the best across the 3, I'm not sure, because even though he lost all 3, I know we touched on earlier, the way Damon Heta played in his first 2 games in particular was superb. So I'm not quite sure what the criteria and how it was judged, if I'm being honest. I'm not quite sure what the cruxes were to pick it.
Yeah, we sort of spoke about this on Saturday while I was in Cardiff when I don't remember if we'd already been presented, and we sort of alluded to it very similar to say, for me, Jordan deserves to win it. However, that's on the basis of me creating what I think the criteria should have been for them winning this trophy, not actually what is the criteria and knowing what it was. I don't think Damon should have won it, just because as well as he did play, especially in 2 of those 3 games. you've got to go on and win a game at least to be in that. But
Yeah,
like you said,
that's
we
what I
don't
mean.
know what the criteria
I don't know
was.
what
Is
the
it
criteria
on the
was.
best number? Yeah. Is it the best sort of average across the three? Is it the furthest run? Is it actually could be the biggest upset? You know,
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean. I don't think the
there's so many
criteria
different
maybe set out. Well, look, no one's begrudging GG the win because like, he played some good stuff and everything like that, and it'll do his confidence the world of good heading back to the UK to play in the Pro Tours and try and save his tour card. So from that point of view, 100% it was great. But the World Series will be finally boxed off in a few weeks' time, September 16th, 17th, and 18th at the AFAS Arena.
Your memory's better than mine.
At the AFAS Arena in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But that's the point. Before we move on from the World Series, you know, I'm going to ask you.
Well,
you know,
two players.
Who gets those 2 places? Chat room, get involved in this as well. Remember, there are still 2 places up for grabs at the end of season World Series finals. I will give you the names that are already there, and then there are 2 places left. So going in to that final event, the 8 seeds, which are already in draw bracket order, will be Dimitri Vandenberg, 1, Gavin Price, 2, Michael Smith, 3, Michael Van Gerwen, 4, Johnny Clayton, 5, James Wade, 6, Joe Cullen, 7, and I've got no idea how, but he is. Gary Anderson is a seed at 8. The other invited players that are already in, Fallon Sherrock, Peter Wright, Dirk van Dijvenbode, Simon Whitlock, Leonard Gates, and Damon Hetter. The 8 qualifiers from the qualifying event, Matt Campbell, Devon Peterson, Ryan Joyce, Jamie Hughes, Danny Noppert, Vincent Van der Voort, Dave Chisnell, and Danny Baggish. There are 2 places left. Now, this is going to cause controversy and debate, like all wildcard picks do, if they pick someone that went to the qualifier.
For me, Luke Humphries is one of those names. Did he go to the qualifier?
No, he opted not to.
Luke Humphries is one of those. And will it be Jordan Mathers?
I don't know.
The problem is if it's not Jordan and Leonard, because of Leonard Date's already been invited. What I wouldn't like to see is it being 2 players from the PDC Order of Merit who haven't competed in the World Series events at all. I'm not opposed to one, but for them it to be both of the invited players, just I don't know, wouldn't sit right. So I'm going to go Humphries and Jordan Mathers. Yourself?
Again, I'm kind of torn. It's the World Series. For me, the best 2 for the tournament at the moment, again, just personal opinion, if you're talking about just players to make the tournament better, would probably be Luke Humphries and Nathan Aspinall. Neither went to the qualifier. But it's the World Series after all. So my personal opinion is it should be players that have played in a World Series event. So
both.
Not necessarily both. It can. Just trying to think. I'm just having a look. No one really from the Nordic stands out.
I can't see Luke Humphries not being there.
But he opted out not to go to the qualifier, the same as Aspinall. They had a chance to qualify for it and opted not to play.
Was they already penciled in with a possibility if no one stood out of these 3 events that we had left?
Quite possibly. That wouldn't surprise me. But I think I would go, because they played in the World Series event, I'd like Danny Lauby, because he's played in one for me. And Ben Robb, just to give him another taste of TV action. But for the tournament, I think it would make more sense having Humphreys and Aspinall. But for that World Series flavour, and I'd go Lauby and Robb.
What for me? Why would Robb justify being over Mathers? Would probably be my question on that one. Robb played a very good game. He came up against Derwin Price, who was outstanding. But Mathers has done on and won the Tol Anderson Award by reaching a semi-final.
And commercial viability.
I don't agree with that. But
all right, if you were trying to sell tickets, who would you put on a poster?
All I'm going to say to that is entry number 23 and entry number 24 of a World Series event. When I reel off names of Derwin Price, Michael Van Derwin, Peter Wright, just as a start of Fallon Sherrock, just as a start of those 4 names, I don't need to put another 2 names on there to sell tickets. As them 4 alone will do it for the other 20.
But you're selling more. It's more TV. You're putting eyes on TV rights in different areas. For me,
then I feel like the field makes sure that it's heavily watched. There's not anyone outside of that 22 that's going to increase the viewing figures drastically because the names we've already got there.
I just think that it adds a little bit. Like I say, for the tournament, I'd go Aspinall and Humphreys in terms of names and making it a better tournament. But for a World Series vibe, I'd go with that. We're going to jump into the chat room. Murphy's in, no doubt, in his hotel room. Hope you are good, buddy. I'll see you again tomorrow now as well. Just had a late phone call. He would go Bo and Luke with a little angel halo. Paul Lim. Danny Noppett's already in, Bob. I think, Craig, I spoke to Robert at length about this. Even if Rob was offered, I think he would say no. He genuinely doesn't plan to play in anything non-ranked.
It's easy saying that when you've not been invited.
Listening to him, he was like, hand on heart, his exact words were, 1, why should I? And 2, I'm not giving Dan Dawson 100 quid or whatever it was. Because they've got a bet. Dan reckons he'll cave.
If he's invited to the Premier League, so do
I. It will be interesting. People asking, does that include the Premier League? Yeah, he's adamant. We spoke to him at length at the fishing a few weeks ago. And genuinely, he was adamant. His words were, I don't play in anything non-ranked anymore. And I said to him, including the Premier League? And he was like, yes. Look, whether that stays or whether that goes, but at the moment, he's quite adamant that he's not.
Robert.
How we doing, Laura? How we doing, Maisie? Back to school tomorrow. Barney, look, I think if the fact that Barney wasn't in the Dutch one and they've had opportunities to put him in stuff before, I think the Barney freebie ship has sailed. He got the swan song when he retired. Let's be brutally honest, that last Premier League he was in. He purely got it because he was retiring. In terms of what he was doing on the board, wasn't even close to getting it. I think that ship sailed.
Yeah, I think he's in a little World Series group with Adrian Lewis, where they don't receive invites unless they do something outlandish to go on and pick up a huge title, a match by other worlds.
Yeah. Moving on, the women's series was over in Germany this weekend, 4 events, and it was absolutely dominated by Bo Greaves. Boise will go for it 13-16. The first event, obviously, when we started streaming on Saturday, because I jumped on with Gob before the Champions of Champions started, the first question on everyone's lips was, where was Lisa Ashton? Unfortunately, Lisa's flight got cancelled and she had no way of getting there in time for event 13. It's just the world we live in these days, that travel is a nightmare, and it's going to happen more and more, whether it's Women's Series, Pro Tour, Euro Tour. You can see players getting timed out almost more and more at the moment.
Yeah. If you want to see how bad it is, just follow one player on social media, which is Jeff Smith, who you see it happen to. Seems to be every month. The guy travels to so many events, but constantly has issues with travel. And so we are going to see it with a number of players. It was just unfortunate that on this occasion it had an impact on Lisa. It had an impact for me on Lisa across the whole weekend, which I know we'll probably come on to in each event. But obviously missing out on an event completely when she would probably be the favourite in the first event because of her record previously.
I'm not sure.
If not, she's in the top 2 or 3.
If not, she'd be in the top 2, but I don't think she's played that well recently. Is the thing.
A record on the World Series event is on the World Series.
Oh.
Sorry, women. I'm still stuck on World Series. On the women's is just ridiculous. That going into Saturday alone with 2 events, she would be probably expected to go and pick up one of those, or at least be in a final.
Yeah. Agreed. But spoiler alert: this final here, we see this final quite a lot. Mikuru and Bo sharing the final. But in this one, it was Bo Greaves who did an absolute demolition job on Mikuru Suzuki. 5-1, and from the early stages in the final, only one winner.
Yeah, but Storing was just very good. A throw is looking better and better, even from what we saw her do at Ladeside a few months ago. A throw seems even better now for me. Obviously, we know that she's had struggles previously, but it was just a very, very convincing win from Bowen. Was just always in control to put in right form. When, let's be honest, there was question marks about Bow this weekend, and for her to then go on and win the first one, put her in good stead for the rest of the weekend. I still think no one probably thought she would go on and win as she did, but it put her in great stead. Sort of the people who didn't expect or wasn't sure how she would come and perform in the PDC this year, with it being her first event. She certainly quietened a few of those with the level of performance in that final against Mikuru, and dominated Mikuru Suzuki from the off.
Yeah, and then into obviously the semi-finals, Kate Sheldon making a semi-final, and Iselin Hausen, the Norwegian flag. We didn't know a lot about her, but again, really nice action that we saw her get into a semi-final. Look, she got battered by Bo, but there was many people that got battered by her across the 4 events, so no shame there. Priscilla Steenberg getting to a quarter-final, Alien de Graaf beaten by Mikuru. We'll come on to the players that didn't go in terms of how that affected the field, and the German players that had entered as well. But event 1 dominated by Bo, and deservedly so. She picked up the first title. Moving on to event 4. No, don't worry. This is a different slide. Same final. But like we say, it was the theme that these two were destined to do great things. And I think we were talking, and me and God were talking as well, that you looked at it, as long as they were kept apart in the draws, the finals, semi-finals, finals, depending on, like you say, where they were drawn, was always looked destined to be a version of Bo, Makuru, Lisa, or Aileen. But those 4 looked a class above this weekend. Bo was a class above the other 3. But as a 4, that they were the only 4 that you could see winning the event, looking at what we were seeing on Dart Connect and on the stream.
Yeah, I agree. There's sort of 3 sort of pots. Bo was on her own. Just below them, there was your 2 or 3 players of Lisa and Eileen and Makuru. And then there's sort of the rest of the field. And Laura got a name into the semi-final here and went like 5-1 on Sunday. But then Bo just seemed to step it up and just had an extra day that Makuru didn't have in this final. The 10 darter in, I think it was lead 4, lead 5, was just sensational, and she just looked very, very smooth, as I alluded to on the first event. Every time we saw on stream, the throw just seemed to look very good. The power storing was just seemed to be too much for the rest of them. But one name that really stood out, I know we were talking about her here and as top of the rankings list, is Lisa Ashton. For her to have the travel issues and then to make the semi-final after missing the event is a very, very good achievement. And I know on paper, without knowing the backstory, people will say, "Oh, Lisa should be in that final. You know, she's playing some good stuff." But getting to that semi-final with the issues she had in there, I think it's a very, very good achievement.
Yeah, a couple of names in the quarterfinals as well that didn't. Well, no, one of them we know about. Yuki Sakaguchi, I think, had a very consistent weekend, and she's one that I think that is in that very much development stage that could go on and become a really, really good player for the women. And one that I knew nothing about, but she had a very good quarterfinal run here, and she played very well again on the Sunday, was Stephanie Rannock. Didn't know much, didn't know anything about it, if I'm being honest, but we saw more and more of her, and again, another one to keep an eye on in that developing stage. Yeah,
falls into the same group as Sadaducci, Tate Sheldon, Chloe O'Brien. The last 2 we saw at Blackpool. There is a pot there of players who can hit a certain level. It's just being able to maintain that over a day or over a few events. But they are going to be that group if all of them play in the 20 or 24 events before Blackpool for next year, if that's where that vote is. They to me are going to be that names that are going to be in that sort of bunch from 4th down to 12th, competing with the likes of Lorraine and Laura Turner, and probably Eileen maybe just be a little bit above those, but we'll be in that exciting pot of youngsters finding out and getting better and better. And the more events of these we see, the better these than the Deltas from UT. So we didn't see her perform that well earlier on in the year, but got a lot better this weekend, and they'll give her a lot of confidence down into the next one.
Yeah, completely. Event 15. Again, don't adjust your screens. But this was probably the performance of all 4 events from Bo in this final to beat Makuru.
Yeah, this was Makuru at her best this weekend. I thought this was the best she probably played, even though she got the better of Lisa in this one and the previous events. But this was probably the best Makuru played, and it just shows what level Bo Greaves is at the moment. The Makuru threw absolutely everything at her, but Bo Greaves just had too much. And for me, it would have probably been different if this was event 1 of the weekend. But the confidence Bo had from Saturday then taking it into this event on Sunday probably helped her with that, and it was just an outstanding final. And one of, I would probably say, I know we're sort of in the early years of the women's series, but one of the best finals that we've seen so far in these events.
Yeah, look, it was a fabulous final. You just look at the numbers. We've seen finals of that standard in a Pro Tour.
Yeah, just what, 4 12s and a 13 with the two players. It just showed the level that there was at, and 2 of those 12s come from Bo in the last 2 legs when the store's at 3 apiece. It was just a great final. Played at a good pace by both players, and for the third final of the weekend for them, produced the best final.
Yeah, and this was the only event in the last 16 that Bo actually faced a match start. It was in the last 16 against Lorraine. Lorraine missed the dart of the ball. That was the only match start that Bo faced across the 4 events. I think it was in this event as well. Someone else caught my eye earlier on, and just scrolling through because she was on the stream. It was Roos van der Velde when she beat Rhiannon Griffiths on the stream. Really, really nice throw. Very Kevin Painter-ish, with the finger pronounced and the comeback and the set. But again, another one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, from a, we don't always want to compare, but if you are comparing it to someone with a throw, Kevin Painter's not a bad player at all to compare with. So it's a very good throw. We've obviously had the pleasure of seeing it quite close up this year on the seniors. But yeah, what this day, obviously being in Germany, there was question marks around what players would be there. We knew that obviously the Fallon wasn't going to be there, being on the World Series. But we saw a few names that we haven't yet seen compete. And hopefully, when it moves back to England and we have people from Great Britain back in who didn't go, adding these names that will hopefully think they can go and compete, and the quality will get better. And we saw it, better than me, many, many moons back when the PDC split and we had the sort of the numbers gradually grow, and where we are now, it's into hundreds into Devon Challenge Tour. We need to get there with the women's. It is going to take time, but there's a lot of players hopefully from this who think, yes, I'll travel.
Back in the day, they used to invite Americans and that over to fill gaps. The standard was horrific lower end. So this is what we said before. The ladies' game has been neglected, full stop, and it's going to take time to get it where it should be.
Yeah, but what I would say to that, Phil, is it's probably moving at a faster pace than what I thought it would do quality-wise. It isn't just 3 or 4. Yes, Bo, Fallon, Lisa, in whatever order, Material, Eileen, Laura, Lorraine, those sort of players are a little bit ahead of the rest. You can probably put Katie and players in there as well. But actually below that, the quality is there. It's just not there consistently. And that's what these tournaments will now provide. That we've seen some players who we actually think, they can go on and progress. And there's a bit of a... We mentioned it with Tayden, that there is a player in there. It's just seeing them then progress over the next few years and hopefully competing in all these events.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Look, you've only got to look at some of them in the quarterfinals. Obviously, Bo, young, Aileen, not old, Katie Sheldon, little pocket rocket that she is, Yuki Sakaguchi as well. There's talent coming through, but just needs nurturing. Is the thing. So event 15 was Bo picking up her 3rd title in a row. All eyes were then on event 16. Could she complete the Fab Four? We all know the answer to that one. And again, it was one of the most likely finals that we saw. It was Bo. This time it was against Aileen de Graaf. But again, same result. And the winning streak from Bo Greaves carried on.
Yes. How she progressed today, like it says, it was well publicised that she had a few struggles with a release a couple of years back. And we sort of saw that the back end of some of the WDF events when she was could have potentially been on streaming boards. But at the moment, that release just looks very good. And when that's as it is, there is an argument that she's the best women's player in the game at the moment. And the fact that she's in that and she's done an on 1-4.
I don't think that's not even an argument. Currently, right now, it's like the debate we have in the men's game. Right now, there's not a debate that she is the best woman player in the world. Right now. The same as we have the men's, was it Gezi, was it Peter? Right now, it's a fairly obvious one.
Yeah, over the past few months, but for me, as the most informed player, so I'm not going to argue she's not the most informed player. What I want to see, hopefully, that we'll see from Bowen, it very much sounded like that's the case, that she's going to be competing in the next event and she's going to be pitting herself up against Lisa, who should be playing in all the events. Fallon, who will be back competing in them. It will be good to see them actually down battle it out. The reason I say she's in the argument and she's not number one, I think it'd be very harsh to discredit Lisa for what she's done on the women's series this year, to be where she's on the rankings, to be in so many finals. We know what Fallon can produce. Yes, she's not in the form at the moment, as you've alluded to, not probably match fit. So certainly the most informed player, but I cannot wait for the next women's series events because the two names of Lisa and Fallon were sort of heavily penciled in for the back end of for the Grand Slam and the World Championships. The World Championship, sorry, Fallon's already in the Grand Slam. But Bo has now put her name in the hat, winning all four, and she needs a very, very impressive weekend to put her name in the World Championships. But at the moment, she's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, look, she's going to be in the mix for that Worlds. So, as it stands at the moment, Lisa Ashton is going to Alexandra Palace. She cannot be caught. Lisa will return to the Palace. She's top of the order of merit. We'll come on to the race for the match play in a minute, but she is top. Fallon Sherrock is second. Obviously, didn't add anything because she wasn't there. Aileen de Graaf remains in third. Bo Greaves, after winning all four events, she's only £200 behind Aileen in fourth, adding $4,000 in a weekend. She's level with Lorraine, but obviously top on countback. Mikuru Suzuki is sixth, and then Katie Sheldon. Right, we'll do. Do you want to do the? We'll do the race for the match play first, and then we'll come back to it. So, after the first set of events, it's safe to say, going off of last year's, I know there's going to be more events, so it will go up the bar. But last year, £1,800 got you to Blackpool. If it's around the same, Bo is already there. Bo will be going to Blackpool next year. Mikuru Suzuki is on 1,900. So she's probably only got to add a little bit. And Mikuru will be going to Blackpool. Ben, Katie Sheldon in 3. Aileen de Graaf in 4. Yuki Sakaguchi is in green at the moment. I know there's plenty of events to go. Priscilla Steenberg is 6th. Lisa is 7th. And Stephanie Renner, who we said earlier, is 8th. This weekend, I know she was an event down. Lisa only picked up 750 quid.
I'm not worried about Lisa.
Oh, not worried, but it's just a shock that that's all she's picked up.
Yeah. Was it 500 for the first one as well? And the second one, semi-final? No. 250.
So she went 400, 250, 100. Obviously, she blanked in the first one because she didn't make it in time due to travel issues. But yeah, she went 400, 250, 100.
Yeah, but 2 points, I guess, on both. There's not going to be 8 players on 4,000, or the 8th player won't be on 4,000. So for me, Bo is there. Maturu is as good as there. Maturu's potentially there without playing another event, and we know that she'll play in more of these. So Materials,
I
obviously.
I think she needs a couple more ranking points on there, but she's 90% there. I think if she didn't play another one, she may be hanging in the balance a little bit and maybe getting a little bit squeaky.
Yeah.
But I think she needs a few more just to tip her over the guaranteed one. So the other talking point from the women's series at the weekend was, interestingly, the amount that didn't travel, and it looks as if that there was a whole influx of German players. Now, I'm interested to see the balance and the tipping point here. One, when we return to Wigan in a month's time, who will return and enter that didn't? And how many of those Germans will travel, and how many just entered because it was something to do at the weekend because it was in Germany?
Hopefully, we have quite a few. There's performance-wise shows that they need to mix with the best. Yes, none of them went on and won the title because Bo was outstanding, but hopefully it means that some will travel, and maybe not to every event that there's going to be, but like to see them down, push on, and maybe put themselves in a position to challenge for that 7th, 8th spot to go to Blackpool. Because what an experience that would be. You know, if you spoke to Katie or Chloe, who qualified in 7th and 8th, and what an experience that has done. And we saw now Katie Sheldon put herself in a good position for the rest of the year. Hopefully, when we come back to within the end of October, that we will have an increased number. I'm sure we will. But hopefully the field is spread around the players we've got from around the world. Hopefully UT and Material will travel, and we'll have a very, very strong German contingent, as well as, you know, the returning stars from the UK who didn't play.
Yeah, just a couple of points. Murph, we said that. Yeah, fully agree. It will be a little bit higher, but like we said, Makura, I think she needs just a couple more ranking points, and she'll be there. Did the German women enter just to fill up the spaces? I know that Sarah Mikowski has got quite a big social media presence. I know she was always on the case trying to get German players to enter. So I definitely think that had an effect. But in terms of, I'm just looking at the rankings, the players that didn't go. And by the way, I don't think this has any effect on the winners or anything like this. I just think this affects the strength in depth of the tour. Coming down, obviously, we know Fallon wasn't there for obvious reasons. But then Chloe O'Brien, Jane Densley, Rhiannon O'Sullivan, Trina Gulliver, Corrine Hammond, Joe Locke, Kirsty Hutchinson, Robin Byrne, Natalie Gilbert, Maria O'Brien, Vicky Pruin, all that little cluster. Obviously, Felicia Blay will probably be there in the next one as well. You add that lot back into the mix, suddenly the depth of the tournament becomes a lot stronger.
Yeah, well, we've sort of gone through each event and spoke about how strong the quarterfinals are. You put those names in the mix, you're probably then looking down to how strong some of those last 16 games are, and potentially down into the last 32. And then you're talking about the field being very strong. And yes, I don't think, with how well Bo played across the weekend, I don't think we would have seen much of an impact in the results, as she was sensational. However, I'm in total agreement that the last 16, 32 pot just that very, very tight, and the Danes become better. The quality, the pressure,
the quality of those matches, the quality of those matchups become better. Are we also getting to a point? Do we think? I know Murph's in the chat room. It'll be interesting to see what you think as well on this, mate, because I know you commentate on it a lot. Are we getting to a point now where should there be 8 seeds for the women's series? Because I can't remember what event it was, but there was an absolute stinker of a first round draw where it's not seeded.
I guess the only question probably on that would be, when do you do the seeding from? because we've got a women's series here that's running from obviously sort of January to January in theory of the year. However, the women's main event is July, which is the match play. There's only that one event, a TV event. Would you run that from a January to January, or would you run it from July? Because now we're talking about event 12 to 13 to 16, but actually it was event 1 on the race to the match play. So I think they just have to look at when they fit that ranking system in. But I think it would be a step in the right direction to bring that in, because it would then follow the same mould as what they do on the Pro Tour.
Yeah, it's just an interesting one because,
yeah,
like you say, at the moment, we could go to the next set of events, and Bo, because she didn't do the first cluster of groups, she needs another big performance, which more than capable of. But if the draw goes wrong, she could draw Lisa first, round of 1, Aileen, Fallon, and so on, where she should probably be seeded, where it just alleviates that horrific first round draw.
It does, but probably the flip of that is for qualification for the World Championships, Bo would probably want to draw Fallon round 1 or round 2 in one of these next 4 events if both players are playing in it, which I'm assuming they will be, because then both don't want to win the event. But what Bo doesn't want to do is meet Fallon in the final, because yes, you'll get more ranking points, but actually Fallon only needs finals, as long as it's all 4 of them, to make sure then she's done enough. So it's...
Oh yeah, look, the seeding,
it
you
is one
can't
of them
bring
at the
it in
moment.
now.
It could favour them.
You couldn't just bring it in now, but I'm thinking how you make it better if someone's in the same situation next year, where at the start of the year there's some kind of seeding.
I think the seeding would only come in if you have got a Women's World Championships. So you've got because they won't do it in a race to the match play. Just can't have your seeding being from July to July, but your calendar runs from January to December. So for me, it'd be something they would bring in. I think they should bring it in, but that's bringing it in with a PDC World Championships being at the end of that, and that's your full-on ranking system that has your seedings to that race. I don't see them bringing it in now until there is a World Championships, which I know me and you off camera spoke about. I still don't think there's one incoming yet, but I don't think it's that far away. Obviously, we're not going to see one this year. It'd be announced by now if it was. I still think it might be a few more years. But I still don't think it'll be the following year. But maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, we will see a World Championships. But I guess, Phil, that all comes back to, for the PDC to put on the event, it then goes back onto the players that we need to see 100 plus women competing at these Pro Tour events, and that Dane going in that direction for us then to have a World Championship.
Also, someone's just WhatsApped me. I'm guessing because he sent it on WhatsApp, doesn't want his name mentioned. But he brings up a very good point. What happens if, when the PDC release the 2023 calendar, normally there's an increase in prize money. What happens if in that increased prize money, the women's series money goes up? Because then all of a sudden, the 2023 events would mean more than this year's. In, like you say, when the race for the match play has already started.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could put that to say if that would have happened now, and Bo didn't enter any of the tournaments at the start of the year and then entered now, and let's say the prize money had gone up to £1,500 the winner, Bo would actually now be sitting in second place instead of fourth place because that prize money's gone up.
Oh yeah, but the fact that the race has already started, and if it goes up halfway through a race.
which is probably why it should be points and not money. But there we go. That's a whole different debate because that's across a lot about the points and the ranking systems.
It's an interesting scenario. If it does go up, the race for the match play would already be 8 ranking events in, and then all of a sudden the next 8 are worth more than the previous 8. Is that fair on the ones that have already won those 8?
Not for me, because it goes back to a qualification criteria should be set 12 months prior to that event. So that shouldn't change in regards to any of the ruling within there, including prize money. That's not me saying I don't want them to increase the prize money. And then, if they are going to increase it in January, they can't then say it's the new increase, but we're not going to put it up till August, because then that could have an impact on the World Championship race.
All I'm saying is,
and the prize money will generally go up.
They put the prize money up for the World Match Play. What was it? 4 weeks before the tournament this year. So we've seen it before. But all of a sudden, the ones that are qualified are getting an extra chunk of ranking money because they put the prize money up.
I wouldn't be surprised if it changes then, but that doesn't mean it's right.
You've used that phrase a lot this week.
I've used it probably 100 times just to you this week. This week only started today.
When I was winding you up.
I don't let wind up, Philip.
Oh, you were. You could tell by the tone of your WhatsApp you were annoyed.
I do not let wind up.
So, also, this week just gone, we had the Red Dragon Champions of Champions. It's a brutal, cutthroat event, the same as the old News of the World. It is best of 3 all the way through. 256 players that are qualified all in one room. What a buzz, Lee. Before the dart was thrown, the atmosphere was all buzzing, and it was such a buzz at the depot in Cardiff.
Yeah, for me, I've not experienced the Champion of Champions before. To have, as you'd have seen on our socials, to have the sort of 16 boards all down the right-hand side. The only sort of comparison, obviously, other than local events that you see, the only sort of big comparison I can give it to, and when I was speaking to, I think it was Martin Luckman at the venue, my comparison, and I know you'll remember it well, Phill, is sort of UK Open feel of Bolton. The only difference being is there wasn't a game on the main stage while the sideboards were being placed, but it is just totally relentless. The players, as you know, with a big field, you're going to have big adapts between your first and second round games than you are the back end. But then you go into a stage where you're having 10-minute breaks before you bat on stage. And I've mentioned in there, Martin's probably the example of how brutal that competition is. He won his first 4 games, all 2-0, hadn't dropped a lead whatsoever, hadn't dropped a lead in qualification, and then 10 minutes later, he's lost 2-0 and he's out of the tournament. And he didn't really do anything wrong. First round, we spoke about it. Dan Reed losing first round to a 1-2 checker and a 1-5-1. Could do absolutely nothing about it. Lost, I think it was a 12 and a 15. And you're knocked out and you've not put a foot run. Really? It's just brutal. The whole day is brutal.
100%. It was just ridiculous.
The atmosphere that the Welsh support was very, very vocal. You've got 16 games, give or take, happening at the same time. It was just non-stop, and it was an all-round great day. And the names that were there as well, we've seen from the previous winners. But the names that were there, we had 5 or 6 tour card holders. We had a world champion there, world championship finalists there. It was just a great event. And with, what I would say, a surprise winner.
Yeah. Oh, look, Alex Small, who defeated Scott Bayliss 2-0 in the final, played some fabulous darts to win it. But when you saw some of the players that were there and some of the players that were in the quarter-final lineup, he wouldn't have been the favourite.
No, you had the reigning champion and Jim Williams there. As I said, you had Martin Lukeman, who reeled off 16 leads in the spin, including qualification. People like Adam Smith-Neal, Chaz Barstow,
Robert Owen,
Connor Sturt, Robert Owen. The names, especially for the darts fans who watch every single darts event that's on our stream, whether it be our live league or WDF events or ADC events or the old plethora of tournaments that we have. The names that were there were ridiculous, and the quality was there to show. There was just no give up. So for Ali to go on and win it impressively in the final as well. And it's difficult for the players because they played 6 or 7 games to get to that semi-final, all on sideboards, all being watched by 50, 100 people, to then go onto the main stage, have a little hour and a half break, then prep yourself ready for the semi-final. Alec took himself away. I don't know if you saw in the venue, but Alec went and took himself away into sort of a quiet corner around the back where no one was there, and he just went and zoned out and done his own practice, where the other 3 were using the practice boards that were visible for all the sort of the public to go and watch. And it worked in his favour, because when he was on the stage, he looked very, very good. Coming through that. Scott Bayliss was just a disappointing final performance. Semi-final took an awful lot out of him. He came back from 1-0 behind in that semi-final. Had plenty of match darts against him. But came back from 1-0 to win that 1-2-1. But it just seemed to take it out of him. And Ali put in a very, very impressive final performance, which followed on from Dave Sumner winning the plate final against Dan Reed.
Yeah, look, it was just such a good vibe down at the depot. Evening, Charlie. Hope you are good, mate. Just such a good vibe around it. A couple of people asked, is it going to be televised in the future? Look, there was we obviously were speaking to the guys from Red Dragon. They're always looking to improve it, and there's talk about having a streaming board next year as well, and trying to take it to the next level. So look, it's one of those ones that's here to stay as a tournament. It does good things. It's the closest thing we've had to the News of the World since News of the World went. So no, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, from a streaming perspective, it would be good. There is obviously consequences to that if that was to happen. But what I probably would say as a darts enthusiast myself, as we both are, but to anyone who follows the sport, goes to events, make sure you go to a Champion of Champions. You get to see the players up close and personal, just behind the fence. If anyone's been to a UK Open, whether at Minehead or at Bolton, as I can remember it, the tournament is just very good. It's very quick. It's very fast paced. But you can go and watch all sort of 3 or 4 boards at the same time. They are all one side of the room. It was a great event. You could tell by the Saturday night that I was buzzing with it, Mr. Bars, and all round I just thought it was a very good event. But can still improve.
Yeah, oh, completely. Also, Lee Evans booked his place at Champions Week at the Online Darts Live League. Played really, really well. I really enjoyed Saturday's finals there as well. 2 really, really good groups. Good to see Jenks, Robert Thornton making semi-finals. Neil Duff getting to the final. Ran out of steam a little bit in the final. Bless him. But look, Lee played really, really well. From
a semi-final perspective, see Neil Duff and Robert Thornton, for anyone who's following the World Seniors, my first thought was, can't wait to see that on the stage at the World Seniors next year at some point. That would be one hell of a clash at a 1st to 8 or 1st to 9 day.
Yeah, completely. Some big news dropping for the Live League this week, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And when I say big, it is massive. The group today was brilliant. Martin Adams averaging 98 and just pinging 180s for fun at 66 years old. God, that makes me sick. Just Rolls Royce.
Like, then, just as someone who loves watching the sport and has loved watching it for many years, to see a legend of the game, and I know that word can be used too often, but no one can disagree that Martin Adams is a legend of the game. The level of performances that he can put in on the Live League, at the seniors, one of the best performances I've seen this year in any tournament was his World Seniors game against Richie Howson and the finishing. But we see him do that in the Live League at a shorter format. And the names in this week, we've seen O'Dud, James Hurrell's been, how he's up in the WDF ranking. We've got Christian Tist in there. But for Martin Adams to be leading that after day one, it is only day 1 of 3 for this group. But Martin Adams is looking very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Have we missed anything else in a week of darts?
Don't think so. Obviously, we've got the return of the ranting events this week.
Yes, Euro action returns
to Budapest.
Yeah. Daniel, I'm not sure how many will withdraw from this weekend, but certainly in coming weeks, the top players have already said they're not going to play in all 3 Euro Tour events coming up. MVG has already said he's missing Jena. Gerwin Price is missing Belgium. I think there'll be a few more that potentially do the same and won't play in all of them, Boise.
Yes. Without doubt. Especially you look at some of which have travelled the past month, haven't really been home at all. I'm sure I've seen Joe, still waiting to return back on his socials. There's a few of which who will need to just make sure they're managing the downtime correctly. It's not just about having a rest. They still need to then prepare for the World Series finals, European Championship final, Grand Prix, Grand Slam. So it's not just about the time away from the ball, but it's making sure that you pick and choose the right events to go to. But some very, very interesting names and players that I'm looking forward to seeing this weekend, from both a Tour Card qualifier to even some of the other ones. Like, we did see Thibaut Tricol competing this weekend. You've got the likes of Josh Wright and Talon Reed who have come through the Tour Card qualifiers, and obviously your big names within that top 16. So it is going to be good to see the Euro Tour back up and running this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tommy, I don't know. It's been quiet on that front, but it'll be interesting to see if Peter Wright's fit to play this week.
Yeah, he's the one name who, if anyone's going to withdraw, it would probably be Peter, just because we haven't sort of seen any sort of update. But fingers crossed, after missing all the World Series events, that we'll see Peter back this weekend. With the World Series of Darts finals just a few weeks away, as much as we've spoke about a rest for some of these players, some of them need that time on the board, and Peter Wright will be one of those after a month off.
Yeah, well, the field is set. The qualifiers are done. So this is the Euro Tour lineup. Your 16 seeds: MVG, Luke Humphreys, Gerwin Price, Michael Smith, Rob Cross, Peter Wright, Damon Hetzer, Ryan Searle, Nathan Aspinall, Dirk van Dijvenbode, Joe Cullen, Jose de Souza, Dimitri Vandenberg, Dane Oppert, Johnny Clayton, and Christoph Ratajski. They're your 16 seeds for the Euro Tour this week. Then your Tour Card qualifiers are Nathan Rafferty, Jeff Smith, Dave Chisnell, Josh Rock, Callum Ridds, Ryan Meikle, Daryl Gurney, Roby John, Stephen Bunting, Boris Kirchmar, Martin Lukeman, William O'Connor, Darius Labanauskas, Simon Whitlock, Ted Everts, Raymond van Barneveld, Chris Dobie, Jeffrey Deswan, Madas Rasma, Rusty Jake, Gabriel Clements, Jim Williams, Ian White, and Brett Claydon. They're your tour card holder qualifiers. Then the associate members, Thibaut Tricol and Franz Rocha. I'm looking forward to seeing them play. Daniel Larson, Karol Sedlacek as well, Nordic and Baltic and Eastern European. It's a tasty looking lineup.
Yeah, very, very tasty looking lineup. As I said, from a tour card holder qualifiers, there's some names that really stand out from. Associate member in Thibaut Tricol, you've got East European qualifier in Karol Sedlacek, and there's names in there that are going to be looking to cause upset. And then you've got your top 16 where there's a few players within there who we haven't seen competitively since the match play. And it'll be seeing how they react, because the match play seems a very, very long time ago in how busy the world of darts is. But also it'll be interesting to see some of those back on a stage.
It's also going to be interesting to see that Josh Rock's had a whirlwind 3 or 4 weeks on the floor, and it'll be interesting to see how that transfers to a stage. Yes, okay, it's not a full-blown TV tournament, but the fact that you're on a stage, and there is a crowd there, it'd be interesting to see how he takes his floor form onto there.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just people like Josh Roth who's performing well. I know when he said his name, it's like you forgot he qualified when he said Barney's name, Phill. But another one who we need to see something from him this weekend. We need to see him back on stage, back performing. There's huge tournaments we keep speaking about that these players have now got to turn up to these Euro Tours to qualify for. It's not just Barney who we're saying that with. Players like Ian White, who need big weekends. So it does set up for a very, very good weekend. And like I says, I'm looking forward to the Euro Tour returning and that being underway from Friday afternoon.
Yeah, couple of questions there. Ian White played an event in Eindhoven. I'm not sure. Didn't see it, to be fair. Price, if they would draw... Go on.
He won an event in Eindhoven. I didn't see the field. I just thought it was very strong, but I know Ian White went and picked up an event there. I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah, so if a seed pulls out, the next one on the order of merit jumps up one. And so they all move up one if a seed pulls out. Will the players be jet lagged or will they be fine? No, I still think there will be an element of jet lag. They've come halfway around the world. I don't think they'll all be. Oh, no, I'm certain that they won't all be amazing and feeling as fresh as they possibly would want to. But the fact it's a ranking event and it's one of those ones that you suck it in and go and get it done.
Yeah, if you're a qualifier, this is an event that you're looking at to think that if I get through my first round game on Friday, I need to be jumping all over the top 16 early on, getting in front, getting a lead, punishing early darts and testing them to see if that jet lag has got any impact on the performance. Getting in front of those, we mentioned it with the World Series, that some of the dames early on, there was plenty of missed darts at a double. That could be the case this weekend. So then qualifiers need to make sure they're jumping all over the seeds on Saturday.
Yeah,
but I'd expect a few upsets on Saturday.
Yeah, I certainly don't think the seeds will be fresh, ready to go, and perky, shall we say? Right, question time then, everyone. Get your questions in, and we will do our best to answer them as best as we can.
20 minutes of questions.
Yeah, it's good. I like it when we have quieter weeks because sometimes we kind of rush question time and don't get through as many as we'd like. So we get a good chunk today.
I don't believe you've said a quiet week when we've had four women's events, a World Series event, and the Champion of Champions is a quiet week.
Okay, we've had 8. Good night, Maisie. Have a good day at school tomorrow. Tommy says, would Jose de Souza have won the Grand Slam if there was a crowd? Hasn't gone close since. That's one of the $64,000 million questions that's been asked. And you can only judge on the facts in front of you. Can't you, Boise? That you don't like to label people like that, but the longer it goes on, it's hard to say he wouldn't have, because he's not, like you say, he's not come close to winning anything under normal circumstances.
It is, but they're impossible questions to answer. It's then saying, flipping it round to it's flipping it round to say, if we'd have had lockdown another year, would Jose be a multiple TV title winner? Because playing behind closed doors seems to suit him. It's very, very difficult to say. I get your point on, we haven't seen anything since then to think that he would, because I'm not sure if he would have. I guess the other question you can sort of ask, will he pick up another TV title? Do you think he'll pick up another one? Because at the moment, I'm not seeing signs that he will.
Well, the worrying thing for him is he's defending Grand Slam money this year, and he's not even qualified yet.
Yeah. he's
defending a huge chunk of ranking points that he's not going to get the chance to defend unless he does something berserk in one of the upcoming Euro Tours or on the Pro Tour or something.
Yeah, 125 125k dropping off in November unless he does and qualifies. Which he can fully go on and qualify in the Grand Slam qualifier we've seen with the World Series event qualifier. No one in the world would have picked those 8 names to qualify for that. So he could potentially pick up one of those qualification spots. But he needs it.
Yeah, it will be interesting, that's for sure. Big Johnny says, what's the future for the women's tour? For me, I think it will continue to grow. I think they may add another weekend on as well. And I still think there'll be a women's world title after talking to Eddie about it.
When?
At the fifth, you've heard the clip.
I think there will be one. I just said when.
It will either be next year or the year after. They may go the match play one more year and then announce the Women's Worlds, or it might be Ali Pali next year.
I think more the year after. And I guess part of that as well, just back to that, if your ranking system's going to be over 2 years, then mentioning it this year to say we're going to have one at the end of the year, but you've already had 1 year of the qualification, probably doesn't sit quite right. Depends on how the qualification criteria will be.
Yeah, it depends how what the qualifying criteria is. But no,
and how many players are in it as well. Would that be a 16-player event, would you say?
To start, I think the first one, yes. I think the first one would be a 16-player event, and you drop a ladies' game into the scheduling at Ali Pali.
I don't see it being 32. It'd either be 16 or 24. They might have the first stage and the bonus in the second round.
The first one, I think it would be 16.
Which would be the natural step, considering you've got 8 in the match play.
Yeah. That would be mine. new target should be interesting. Quite possibly.
Just a little bit.
Look, it's the worst kept secret in darts. I'm not going to say it, but it's all everyone knows. In fairness, Joe's not on a floor tournament for a while. No, he hasn't. Martin Schindler's wedding at the weekend. Yeah, I saw the pictures on social media. Congratulations to Martin and his partner, James Wenwood, Bully Boy, win a major. I'm still going. He'll win one this year. Just going to keep saying this year all the time.
He doesn't win one this year. And I'm just going to follow that up with, that's not anything aimed at Michael Smith. That's because I'm struggling to see anyone past Michael Van Doorn and Derwin Price picking up any of the biddings at the minute, as the pair of them look so good. There may be one winner outside of those two, but out of the 4 or 5 that we've got, I still see them dominating.
Either win the Players' Championship finals or the European Championships.
We're saying, I'm guessing by saying major, you're saying TV title.
Yeah. They're all televised titles, boys, so you know the work. You know how it works.
You said major, not me.
Or I was reading the
question. Sorry.
I was reading the question. No problems, Owen. Yeah, Tommy, I think 16. I don't know, Johnny. I think it's growing all the time, mate. I think it'll be good.
To the point of that, just look at one final of this weekend. Not sure if you can watch it back. Just look at the performance between Bow and Maturu in that third final of this weekend. Just shows how far the Dainton though. It was just sensational from the pair. 95, 93. What was it? 4 12s and a 13 in there. The Dainton certainly grow. And there's no doubt about it. And I honestly don't think, yes, it is on one player's shoulders a lot more than it is the other, but it's not solely on her shoulders. I bet the Dane growing.
No. Yeah, Bob, the Chinese Premier League's been shown on PDC TV. Some of it's been fairly good. Enjoyed watching some. I haven't watched it all, but the bits I've watched, I've quite enjoyed it.
I'll have to take your word on that one. I've not seen any of it.
Don't get me wrong. I've not watched it all, but the bits I've watched, it's been good. There's no Lollipop Man though. That's disappointing.
That's the only reason I haven't watched it. I'd have watched it otherwise.
Yeah. James Wade said that Garen Price is a pantomime villain, and then says he's. To be fair, look, Gezi on the hockey, that's the way he is. He's ferocious, but away from the hockey, one of the nicest blokes you'll ever meet.
I've had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times, and I can't have a bad word to say about him. What he does on the hockey, and what he does on the hockey, probably 95% of the time, probably even a little bit higher, is for me spot on. There's just the odd occasion where he does something untowards.
But yeah, on the hockey, absolutely superb. Does Mardle or Lloyd plan on doing the seniors? I know they will be asked. I don't know is the honest answer.
I expect to see one more so than the other one willing to do it. Just because I spoke to one of them. I spoke to one of them at the weekend, and he sort of edged towards what his plans would be if he was offered.
I don't think he's got a lot of enthusiasm for playing anymore, has he?
No, not a fat lot. But it was nice to see him. It was nice to see him on the stage on Saturday, throwing.
Yeah. Do you remember John Lowe flogging the antibacterial board spray? Yeah, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. That and his go faster darts when Wayne was just absolutely trolling him on social media, asking him for data, how they went faster.
Mr. John Lowe.
Oh, the John Lowe bacteria spray. Yeah, remember it well, Johnny. It was one of the funniest ones. President says totally come round to Gezia's interview, show him in a good light. Yeah, honestly, he's got a wicked sense of humour, and he's just a generally nice guy. And people have also got to remember is the celebrations have always been there from day one. It's not a new thing. It's just been highlighted as he's grown up the rankings. They've been there since day one.
Yeah, it's just the fact when he first broke onto the scene, we've seen him at certain TV events, and now we've seen him in every event. So we've seen it every week, give or take. Where before we've seen it 4, 5, 6 times a year on TV. If you see someone do it every week, it's going to be more in your mind than it is if you see it once or twice. So it's no different. It hasn't really changed. If anything, it's probably got a little bit more mellow than what it was before. If I'm being honest, when it first broke on, it seemed to be louder and more often than what it is today.
Yeah. Bob says, how good would you say Dan Dawson is compared to Johnny Mack on the walk-ons? Look, that's a bit of a hard thing to compare. Look, Dan's not an MC. He just does it as a stand-in when he has to. John's the best in the business. But Dan over the tournament, he did very, very well. But comparing him to John's really, really harsh because Johnny Mack is so good. But Dan was outstanding in the commentary box in Townsville and Wollongong. And sadly, it was highlighted even more so the fact he wasn't in the commentary box in Hamilton.
Yeah, what Dan can do across the different roles show how good Dan Dawson is, but to then compare him to Johnny Mack would be harsh because how much Johnny Mack's done it over the years across different sports and how amazing he is at doing it for the darts. Dan did a good job, but for me, he's a great addition to the Toms team on PDC TV or any of the broadcasters. So I would like to see more of Dan on Toms. I think he's very good. His knowledge is untested, and I know we spoke about the Michael Smith sort of chat earlier on at the World Series. Dan watches non-stop darts. There's not many who watch as many darts as he does at a PDC level.
Yeah.
If any.
Tommy says, do you think 50 and over is the right age for the seniors? Yeah. I'm good with 50.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know which way you'd move it. If you have it much later, you just got to be careful because you have potentially like the John Lowe sort of quality not being weight required. If you have it much lower, it'll be around the same. If you have it much lower, it'll be the same age of what the World Youth Championship is. So you can't drop it any lower. There's only about a 5-year gap.
Yeah. Dan, do the top 8.
Same decade, winning the World Youth Championships and the World Seniors. If we drop it lower.
Yeah. So, do the top 8 getting the Grand Slam seeds? I don't know. It's not the top 8. It's a set qualifying criteria because I'm pretty sure, and this is Stuart's question at the same time. Right now, Gary Anderson has not qualified for the Grand Slam of Darts. And I'm pretty sure at the moment, the world number 5, James Wade, hasn't either.
Yeah, so the names that have qualified so far are Peter Wright, Derwin Price, Van Derwin, Joe Cullen, Danny Noppert, Hetter and Whitlock, Michael Smith, Dave Chisnell, Ryan Searle, Johnny Clayton are the 11 that are confirmed.
Yeah, it's not the top 8, but there's work to do. There's a lot of high-profile names that aren't there yet. Gary Anderson, James Wade, being probably the two the two standouts.
Yeah,
and obviously
Luton.
Jose as well as he's defending the winner's check.
I was sorry to add into that names I didn't mention. Ted Evitts, Nathan Rafferty, and Leonard Dates are also. There's 14 qualified already.
Lisa and Fallon as well through the women's series and the women's match play.
Fallon would have through the. Oh yeah. Fallon and Lisa would have. Yeah. I keep forgetting there's two for the worlds and different criteria for the slam.
Yeah. Is the Euro Tour on ITV? No, Euro Tour's on PDC TV on Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday afternoon, Saturday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Outside Europe, which continent has the potential to produce more interest in the game? Better player. Look, at the moment, there's not the interest there. But if China throw their hat into the mix and are serious about darts, they seem to produce sports players of a good level all the way through. But at the moment, I don't really think they're interested. For me, right now, is America. I think there's the most interest in the talent on the CDC. For me, I think America right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The level, it's not just the level, I guess, of the players that come through from America, it's the quantity of that level that come through. We've seen the Oceanic with Australia, New Zealand, and the players that they've got, but actually quantity as well as that quality. America's in a very, very good place. And not only in a very good place, but progressing nicely as well with the CDC back up and running this year.
Agreed. You mean North America? Yeah. Sorry, Brad. Yeah, North America, not just America. Yeah. North America in general. Yeah, that's you knew what we meant. What would it be like now? Rod Harrington's retired. Who will replace him? To be fair, Bobby, he hasn't really done a lot anyway. This was just more his swan song to say goodbye. He's not really done any comms. I can't remember since Gary Anderson attacked him and Wayne at the Worlds. He's done less and less since then.
Probably about right. I can't think of any. But rightfully so, giving us one song because he has done it for a long time, and deserves a lot of credit and the right send off for now retiring from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone, that brings to an end the 2 hours of the live lounge this week. Fabulous show as always. Your support is muchly appreciated. We will be back as a trio next week. Gob's not gallivanting, and you haven't got any weddings, have you, Boise? Or United haven't been moved to a Monday night?
I don't do Monday weddings. I don't know where you got that from. If you think of the last person who had one, it wasn't me. So that doesn't count anymore. That's forgotten about. But yeah, I'm here next week. And hopefully Dob hasn't been offered any more freebies, so Dob will be here. He's not, stranging on a freebie.
Yeah. And again, some potentially exciting news about the live lounge coming soon. We're just getting some bits and bobs ready, but could be very, very good as always. But yes, thank you very much for your continued support. Remember, if you haven't, give us a follow on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll turn notifications on and give us a thumbs up. I've been Phill Bars, lead voice for the last 2 hours here at the Online Darts Live Lounge. Monday night, signing off. Have a good rest of the evening, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you all next week.
This is just the beginning.